John, let's talk UFC 316. Main event, of course, a rematch of what most would consider a very one-sided win by Merab Dvalishvili at UFC 306 at Sphere. Merab is now minus 325, as you see on the board there, and Sean O'Malley back at plus 260. What a pivot from how those odds were during their first fight. But let's start with the venue itself. John, I saw you and Kenny Florian talked a little bit about this on the podcast. The O'Malley camp, whether it was from Sean or his head coach, Tim Welsh, talked about the visuals, audio, that environment being a little bit challenging for somebody like O'Malley who's reliant on striking in boxing. Obviously you're not in the cage throwing the punches, but did you get the impression that maybe it could have been a little bit difficult to see at Sphere?
Who knows exactly what played into any one result that night? Certainly if you talk to Ignacio Bahamondes, his opponent, Manuel Torres, I'm sure he would tell you to a man, to a woman, that him getting knocked out had nothing to do with the aesthetics. So I don't know. You're right. I am certainly not in the octagon, thankfully. So I really don't know. I'm not trying to sort of sit on the fence, but largely sort of the thesis statement for that UFC 306 result for Sean O'Malley in that Merab Dvalishvili fight was sort of over-promising and under-delivering. Now, whether or not that was because of things inside the venue, things that preceded the fight, the hip injury that has since been surgically repaired, I just don't know. But I do expect a better Sean O'Malley, come this rematch in the Brick City here first week of June.
For sure. And that night, like you said, with O'Malley, maybe wasn't feeling himself. He might not have been able to hit Merab anyways. Merab was just dialed in, obviously one of his best performances, and he followed it up very nicely with a win against Umar Nurmagomedov. Now O'Malley's a 2-1 underdog, and I know, John, that you're a big Petr Yan guy. We talk about him being one of the pioneers of Russian MMA, currently one of the top, UFC bantamweights and one of the best Russian fighters. Could you maybe help us assess some of the factors that went into O'Malley getting this opportunity versus somebody like Petr Yan potentially?
Well, I think star power would have to have a lot to do with it. Now, I'm not the guy that you would go to ask what type of relative draw Petr Yan is in the United States of America or elsewhere compared to Sugar Sean O'Malley. Perhaps Hunter Campbell would have that answer. But straight meritocracy, I think there are some deserving bantamweights. Umar Nurmagomedov, if healthy, I think you could argue, his fight with Merab was amazing enough that you could have warranted running that back. Corey Sandhagen is 1-1 spanning his last two. Petr Yan certainly put that 3-fight losing streak into the vast rearview mirror, right, with what he did in 2024, wins over Song Yadong and Davison Figueiredo. But the last finish for Petr Yan was July of 2020 against Jose Aldo. And I do think that factors in some part into the equation, Knockouts sell. And certainly the last time we've been able to scream from the masses about a Petr Yan finish was 5 years ago, So I think a finish for Yan would be useful. But he's deserving. Sometimes it's a calendar issue. O'Malley has been granted this opportunity, and now we see what he can do with it come, the 7th of June. But I think Petr Yan, rumored to be facing Marcus McGee, if he's able to take care of business there. I think Jan's thesis statement internally would be like, Marcus McGee's on a tear, he's great, but if I can't beat Marcus McGee, then maybe I don't deserve that rematch with Merab Dvalishvili.
Yeah, that matchup, a bit of a heat check for McGee, certainly a big step up in competition, not unlike how Sean O'Malley was given the opportunity way back when to punch up and fight Petr Yan. I guess Yan, got manhandled by Merab in 2023. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I think that set the UFC record for most takedowns attempted by Merab. Yan is usually heavy chalk, so I would think if, let's say, Merab takes care of Petr Yan in a couple weeks, Merab would open as the favorite, but maybe, minus 200, minus 180. I still think Petr Yan would get a pretty good shot at that in a potential rematch. But here's the good news. Merab seems to grant lots of title shots if he does win at UFC 316. Super, super active guy and battles through injuries. What I love, John, the most about the reliable about some superstars in MMA and in the UFC is the reliability element, right? Guys who pull out, like health is wealth, as a lot of people say, and Merab has battled through quite a few injuries, right? He had the staph infection, I think, heading into his fight in January, and now it looks like a broken toe again, but nothing really stopping him. If you were to take a line, Jon, over under 3.5 fights for Merab this year, where are you leaning?
It's a great question. I think he has a great chance to get 4 in. Now, certainly, I think a lot of that opinion is rooted in him holding serve as the favorite here and continuing to win, because I do think a loss would sort of upset the apple cart in terms of trying to compete on this maybe desired calendar, which is truly, remarkable for a champion. But I think bigger picture, I guess, the good news is that in Alexandre Pantoja, who was ready to go in Miami in April, and the newly crowned Jack Della Maddalena, and the aforementioned Merab Dvalishvili, you have a lot of these guys that are going to be willing and able champions who are going to turn around for the promotion expeditiously, and Merab is the league leader in that category. It was probably suboptimal in terms of decision making for him to fight Umar in LA, and yet he did that and performed masterfully. And now here he is putting the belt on the line again. So far be it from me to put it past him. What's my juice? Going over 3.5 for 2025.
Here are the odds I said. I said under -150, over +125.
Yeah, there you go. You give him a little +120.
See, that's as diplomatic as I can be as a resident trader for this chat. But to boil down stylistically, we'll move into that part of the conversation. Merab, he's the machine, right? That's his nickname. He has his own relentless style. I feel like you can watch tape all day on him, right? Okay, here's how he engages takedowns. Here's where you have room to scramble during a transition. You can watch all the tape you want, but I'm not even sure if that would help, right? Like what if you are coaching O'Malley, let's say, what are you looking for him to emphasize in this rematch? Is it cardio? Is it strength, takedown defense? Because I have concerns, Jon, that you train any of those elements, it might not even make a difference.
So one thing that is a benefit for Sean O'Malley is now he knows what the guy feels like. I remember Dustin Poirier going into the Khabib Nurmagomedov fight, and yeah, you can simulate things in training and start on your back and try to get up, but you ain't going to feel Khabib until you're actually in there, and yeah, he felt pretty darn strong. So now Sean O'Malley at least knows what Merab Dvalishvili feels like, but we really don't know how much of this gap Sean O'Malley can close, and how much of the gap had to do with the fact that he really couldn't wrestle or grapple a whole lot because of the hip. Inherently fighters and coaches don't really want to make excuses. I know some people think that maybe Tim Welch and Sean O'Malley are making excuses. Not really. He had hip surgery scheduled before this fight even happened. He knew he was going to have to get that repaired. So I do think it stands to reason that he will be in better shape, and that can mean wrestling maintenance and grappling repetitions and everything else. But yeah, if it were me and I was fighting Merab in a rematch and I had ample time, which he certainly has had, I would be leaning on Brandon Harris, my strength and conditioning guy, my breathing expert, and others, and be like, yeah, dude, I need to be in the best cardiovascular shape of my life. My base needs to be so absurd that even if my takedown defense doesn't hold up, I'm in triathlon shape, so I can just keep springing back to my feet, which Merab stylistically sometimes allows you to do. But I would think for me, like if I'm fighting Merab, the jumping off point would be better be in the best shape of your fucking life. I don't know.